All right. Welcome to week 4 of Game Design 1. Forgive the voice, the sickness. This will. It's a good thing we're online because there's a lot of gross germs right now. So I'm in quarantine. Okay. Um, but you can't get them through Discord, thankfully. So last week we talked about idea generation. We talked about the design process. We talked about um, the GDD. Uh, this week we're going to talk about two things: the game loop and agency. And then that should take about an hour. And then the rest of it is going to be not recorded. It's just going to be us talking about assignment one. So we'll go to breakout rooms and we'll talk about assignment one. We'll make groups of people who need groups still, that kind of thing. Um, the group enrollment is open now, so if you do have a team, you should join on Blackboard. But just don't just join someone's group randomly. Make sure you talk to them first. So we'll have time, plenty of time to do that here, um, at around 1:15 or so, maybe 1:30. And yeah, whether or not you're in a group, I still want you to stick around. I'm gonna come visit you. I'm gonna say hi. Even if you already have a full group, I want to check in. Okay, so we'll do that. You still have until the 29th to submit your part ones. So it's been extended, and you have until the 29th to submit your part one. All right. Um, you won't actually be able to submit until you join a group, but when you join a group, you can't switch so easily. So you need to ask me. Um, okay, so just make sure you're getting set up right. Um, that's all. Just make sure you're sure of it first of all. Okay, and let me know if anyone joins a group that you didn't agree to. Right, like you didn't talk about it, then they're not in your group. That's it. Um, Please make sure you put your names on all of your work. This should be a given that you always put your names on your work, but make sure that you put your name on your work for assignment one. We'll talk more after. Let's. Are there any super burning questions that you guys want me to answer at some point before we get into our lecture topic? We will have time to talk afterwards, but if there's something super burning, um, yep, that's documentation of what happened. The word document. That's your process. It's like a little blog. It's like a little journal entry. Okay. You're gonna use appropriate language for the classroom. You're not just gonna write it like you're saying "Dear Diary." You know, you're gonna write it as a journal entry, but just one that's gonna be um, for a classroom setting. That's all. Okay. Um, Hang on a sec. What's going on here? Some people still aren't on the server. Hang on a sec. Guys, this is something you need to solve before class. Any teacher can do it for you as well. Hang on. Come on, get in here. Okay. All right. So, yeah. Let's talk game loops. So, what is a game loop? Well, video games are programmed with common procedures and functions. You have to code it. when you have to code it, you are creating a common set of rules. You know, you're creating a common set of procedures. Okay, and it's natural that it follows that a video game will have limitations to what you can do and what you can't do in a video game. You will usually do the same things over and over again in a given video game. It takes a lot of effort to code any even small aspect of a game. So, it's definitely a good idea to reuse those mechanics that you have implemented. In addition, just the identity of a game is based on the things that you do often, right? Uh, so even non even games that are not video games, like a sport or something else, you're not gonna change what you're doing most of the time in the middle of the sport, right? You don't play lacrosse and then suddenly halfway through the game you put away the lacrosse sticks and then you just start you know uh, dribbling the a ball with your feet, um, and then put that away and then decide to pull out bow and arrow and start shooting at some targets across the field or something like that. You don't change the format of the game that much. The game's identity is partially defined by those activities that you do over and over again. Every game has a primary experience, right? In Halo, this first-person shooter game, what do? You run, you jump, and you shoot. That's what you do most of the time. If you look at the buttons that you press as a player all the time, the buttons are usually related to running, jumping, and shooting. Okay? In Mega Man, same thing. Mega Man may as well be called Run, Jump, Shoot Man. Same as the Master Chief here in Halo, your player character. He may as well be called the master of running, jumping, and shooting. That's what you do. And it's also the fun part. That's why you want to play these games. You enjoy doing all of that stuff. It's set up in a way where it makes really fun run, jump, and shoot puzzles for you. Okay. Um, a game loop is this set of actions that you do over and over again in game design. You may run across the term game loop being also used in game programming. So when you're coding a game, you also have to consider this process loop of taking in player inputs, using that input to somehow modify the game state, the world, your character, things like that, change the state of the game, and then display that to your user by drawing stuff to the screen, playing sound effects, haptic feedback through controller vibration and things like that, and other fancy tech that you may have. All of that is output from the game. So you have this cycle that you do over and over again, and that may also sometimes be called a game loop. That's your from the programming perspective. I'm of course going to be talking about the game design game loop, which is something that you will the main activities that you will do, the main verbs. The game loop is the main verbs that you do. But a game can often have many layers. Okay, usually though these layers work together. The layers are not independent; they work together. Um, they might connect in different scales. Video games are onions, so they're built out of these layers. Multiple loops can exist on different timescales or different dimensions. So sometimes you'll have a core game loop, the, the most important activities that you will do, with things surrounding it. Sometimes you'll have the core game loop with things that don't exactly surround it but interact with it. So you can have secondary loops that branch off of it, or you can have secondary loops that contain the core game loop. So here's an example of a bunch of different game loops involved in a side scrolling Super Mario game. Okay. So as Mario, what are the verbs that you do? What are the main verbs that you do? Let's find the core game loop because all of these things that are written here are things that you do. They're all part of the game. Um, but what are the verbs that you mainly do a lot of? You can say the main verbs are you run, you reach the end, okay? Um, you save a character, and you go to a new world, or you explore a new world. So you could say that's the core game loop. Or you could go on a maybe even a smaller scale and say, okay, what do you do all the time? You run, you break blocks, you collect coins, you collect power ups, you avoid or kill enemies. And that's the thing that you do all the time, pretty much. Um, these are they could be optional, but it is one of the most frequent activities that you do. I will say this kind of thing, how you decide what is your core game loop, that can be somewhat subjective, okay? But there is definitely correct answers and incorrect answers. It's just some interpretation that will change how you are defining what your game is, okay? And how you define your core game loop is also going to determine how you define what belongs in your game and what doesn't belong in your game, and how you define what you should be focusing on in improving and what is secondary or less important to focus on when working on your game. Okay? Usually you care about the core game. The core game loop is the thing you need to care about the most because it is the thing your players are going to do the most. Um, and changes and small changes to your core game loop are going to have the greatest effect on your player because 80% of the time they'll be doing this. So if you improve this, you'll be improving 80% of players' gameplay. If you decide to improve this, outsmarting Bowser, okay, uh, then you might be improving, instead of 80%, you might be improving 2% of your game. So if you want to put 100 hours in, are you going to put your 100 hours in the 80% first, or are you going to put your 100 hours in the 2% first? You know, it's up to you. But, one of them is a lot better. Okay? So we have limited resources, and we need to understand what our game is about. It's not even just about budget. We want to understand what our game is about so we can deliver the experience our players want. So oftentimes you'll have secondary loops regarding upgrades or gathering resources or story progression. Story progression is often a secondary game loop because you have some gameplay that you're doing all the time, and then you make a story progression. And then you have some gameplay that you're doing a bunch, and then you have a story progression. Then you have some gameplay, and then you have a story progression. Like here, you save a hostage. It's not the princess, and you move on to the next castle, and you advance some story, kind of whatever story there is here, a tiny bit. Um, in terms of your loops, you can describe them in different ways. So you could say this right here. You could actually say this, maybe not the killing enemies part, but this running, breaking blocks, collecting coins, and collecting power ups. That itself is a game loop that is your um, item and resource game loop. Okay, so that's everything related to collecting. Uh, when you collect 100 coins, it actually gives you a one up, an extra life. Um, you need to break blocks to collect coins or collect power ups. And you need to move around to collect all of these things. So this is very closely connected, and this is your item or resource loop. Okay, and you'll hear these terms game loop used very often in game journalism if you listen for it. Anyone ever heard this term before? game loop. Often, in certain genres of game, they will use a more specific term. Like here, this was kind of your item collection game loop. In a game with focused around battle or that has a lot of battle and combat in it, um, you might have a combat loop, which is, what are the main activities that you do for combat in conflicts to fight each other. Okay, a game might have a progression loop. A lot of RPG style games where you know, you level up your character will have a progression loop. Yeah, listen out for it now. If you haven't heard it before, listen for it in talk about game designs. Here's another example. We've used Dark Souls plenty as an example already. Dark Souls is an adventure RPG where you are a undead knight in a dark world, and you explore and fight awful creatures, um, and you light fires that represent little checkpoints for you that you can go back to. It's kind of how you save your game. But what do you do most of the time in Dark Souls? I have organized several activities here. Verbs, right? Several things that you do in the game. And these are all things you do in the game, but I've organized them in a certain hierarchy. This is a different way of looking at your game loops. That previous diagram was all loopy-doopy, and all the loops were kind of connected in a big mesh. But this is a hierarchical uh, outlook on your game loop. Can anyone guess what is being used to rank this hierarchy? There's different stages here. Complexity, importance, commonality, maybe frequency. Core loop is at the bottom, and secondary or left. Okay. Fun factor? Hmm. Hard to say about that one. Hmm. Okay. So, definitely as you go to the bottom of this pyramid, you find smaller scale things. Things that are smaller actions, right? And you'll also find that they are actions in this game. If you've played it, they're actions you do all the time, like all the time. So definitely frequency. And usually frequency also determines your core, because if you're smart about your game design, you're going to make sure that your core stuff that you improve the most is the thing that you do most often, right? Like I said about the 80% or the 5%. Um, in terms of complexity, though, yeah, it is simpler. So, a lot of good answers here. Okay. Um, you can also look at this in terms of time. And that's actually the main way that I have decided to do this. And I recommend doing this as well. Think about your game having game loops that are fun on different time scales. So, how long does it take to do this? In any given in any given 10 seconds of gameplay, 5 or 10 seconds in any given period of gameplay, you probably are doing these. If you just randomly pick 10 seconds of gameplay, you're probably doing these. If you pick maybe 60 seconds of gameplay, you might be doing this. So you're fighting a particular bad guy. So there's a bad guy out there in the field, and you have walked up to him, and then you've picked it. You do this 10-second activity of running, striking with your sword, and dodging their attacks and things like that. Okay, and you defeat that opponent, and then you reset yourself. You maybe you took a hit, so you heal yourself. You recover. You just mentally prepare yourself for the next opponent, and then you go find your next opponent. That's kind of how it might play out. Okay. Then, on a longer scale, if you explore and play the game for maybe 5 minutes, okay, maybe about 10 times what this was, right? A little bit. Then you're gonna go and actually you're gonna fight a bunch of things. You're gonna explore. You're gonna discover new areas, right? You're gonna discover space, okay? And you might find another checkpoint to be able to save your game at. And when you find that new checkpoint to save your game, you can also level up at those checkpoints. So on the scale of 5 minutes, you might be able to do these things. On the scale of maybe an hour, you might make some other progression with upgrading your gear in the game. So upgrading your gear in the game, in this game in particular, it takes a little bit longer. It runs on a slightly different time scale from this thing. You're not able to do it as frequently because you can't do it at all of the same locations that are very common. You can level up at any checkpoint in the game, but you can only upgrade your gear at very specific places. So it's an activity that happens a lot less frequently. Okay, so you can see that the way these activities happen is they have different frequencies. Kind of like that's our level 1, then this is our level 2, and this is our level 3. Okay, and then there's our level 4. And then our level 5 might take a very long time to complete. Oops. Our level 5 might take a very long time to complete. Okay? That's where you might complete a puzzle. You might defeat a big boss opponent, a uh, big bad guy that's blocking you from entering a new area, a new zone. So you discover a new play space. And that might happen over the course of 3 hours. So these operate on different time scales. And what you'll find is that having them overlap on different time scales is really, really great because there's always something that you're looking forward to. You'll find this in a lot of game designs. They'll have these parallel little arcs of something, right? So it might be in a game that you have multiple progress bars going at the same time, but one of them is always almost full. It's kind of a brain hack, okay? Or maybe you're playing a Civilization or a turn-based strategy game, and then you always just want to play one more turn because there's always something in your plans that is just about to be complete. There's you have multiple plans going on at the same time, but one of them is just about to be complete. So having layers like this, really great idea for increasing engagement and to modulate the level of addictiveness of your video game. Um, it's also good to know because you want to make sure that you work on the small scale stuff first, nail that down, improve it in layers. Because if your game is not fun in 10 seconds, nobody is gonna bother playing your game for 1 hour. If you make your game fun on the scale of 1 hour, but neglect to make it fun enough on 10 seconds, 60 seconds, 5 minutes, so on, what you're going to find is nobody bothers getting to that first hour. If they buy your game, they're going to refund it in 30 minutes, or 5 minutes, if even. Okay? If they hate the controls, they're just not going to play it. That's it. So you need to make sure that you are doing this in layers, right? Think about from the player's perspective. If they're not having fun here and they're not having fun here, why would they have fun here? I'm certain, folks, that you have had an experience where you have stuck it out and there is some fun part over here, but you only ever get to do that fun part once in every hour or once every 20 minutes. And every other part of the game, you feel kind of bored just trying to get to that hour. That's all you wanted. If you're playing a certain game where maybe you have to do a bunch of boring stuff so that you can do something fun in the game, like it's hiding the fun from you as an extra reward for doing a bunch of boring stuff, then you're gonna feel like you're doing a job, you know? And I know some players do like that, though. Some people really like to sit for hours in World of Warcraft and click on a rock and go hit the rock with a pickaxe, and then go click on another rock and hit that other rock with a pickaxe for a whole hour before they can have some gold that they wanted in the first place. But I'm not into that. That's all. That's all I'm gonna say. You at least make clicking on the rocks and hitting the rocks fun. Okay. So designing with a core game loop in mind, it's also really important for this word that maybe is, you're not keen on, but the word that is really important to you having a job. Um, you need to monetize your game. And you need to pay attention to how you are going to decide, design wise and business wise, to integrate your core game loop and monetization. Because you want people to want to spend money on your game. That's your job. As a game designer, if you're working on a commercial game, you're not just there to make people enjoy only. No. You're there to make people want to spend money on your game. Okay? So you can do this in a lot of ways. There's a lot of different business models. Okay? But let's say you find that you have some extra mechanic you don't want it to be involved in the game. So there's something people can buy that isn't really related to their gameplay. Then they're just going to say, "Oh, it's useless. I don't want to buy it because I don't need it." Okay. Sometimes, depending on the community, if you put monetization directly into the activity that you're doing every second, it can be a problem. And sometimes it actually works really well. Uh, in Candy Crush, the reason that your mom can play this game for hours on end and spend $50 on it is because the monetization is tied directly to completing each level. You get to the end of the level. Oh, there's just two more moves you need to make. I just want to buy a little bit more. Okay? And so you can keep playing. So it's been inserted into that core gameplay. The monetization is directly inserted into that. Um, but that's not a new thing. Arcades had this forever. Arcades were originally designed to do that, right? Um, if you're playing like Time Crisis or something, okay, you're fighting zombies, or you're fighting bad guys, soldiers, terrorists, something like that. Uh, then you get shot. Oh no. I want to continue. I want to keep playing. So I will put my money in the machine so I can keep playing. They're trying to get you in the middle of that exciting part that you want to keep doing. Listen, guys, mobile games predatory monetization is not different from arcade games predatory monetization. These people knew what they were doing from the start, that they were getting kids addicted from the start. Uh, you have no idea. It's crazy. And the gambling and everything like that, it was all there. The gambling, the monetization in every aspect, the games being artificially difficult without spending money, that was always there in arcade games, okay? So, I don't know, hot take, right? But listen, guys, you gotta make your money somehow. You wanna have a job, so. Okay. How about another case where it's maybe it's not gameplay critical, but this is also a common model. Monetizing uh, different visual looks for your characters, right? So changing the look of your character in a game where you can select between many different characters and fight
Hello, everybody.
a, in a battle against a bunch of other people playing characters. Okay. Um, it's a first person game, this game Overwatch. It's a first person game, but it has a lot of character in even the first person animations, which is really quite wonderful. And they do a lot to still show you what your character looks like, because the main monetization model is on you buying for different looks for your character. So um, if you're gonna spend money on buying looks for your character, they gotta find ways to show it off. So instead of so they do put a lot of character into the first person animations, and you can see a little bit of the cosmetic things that you've purchased in the game in first person. But they also just straight up show you, your character in third person at the beginning and end of every game. Um, and they not only show your character and what you purchased, but they also show everyone else. So this is you, okay? They also show everyone else and all of the cool cosmetics that they purchased, so that you can say, "Oh, that looks really cool. I want that. I'm gonna go buy that," or try to buy that because it's sometimes random. Um, so they're putting it in front of your face to get you to see that and desire it and want to spend money on it. And this game, they also feature that you can select from a bunch of different characters. So there's a lot of different characters that you can buy cosmetics for. There's a lot of different reasons to have a bunch of cosmetics. Okay. Um, so if you think about this concept, if you're going to talk about Marvel Rivals, think about, okay, Marvel Rivals is actually a similar format to this game Overwatch, but they made it third person. And so you have even more visibility of the cosmetics that you've purchased for your character. Um, so again, there are gameplay implications of the third person perspective, but there's also literally monetization is tied with the game's third person perspective. I won't say more, right? So now I want you guys to think about it. What do you do most often in your game? In your board games, what do you do most often? I want you to find the verbs. Identify all the verbs. So find maybe something around 10 verbs. Type them out in chat. And then try and find which 3 verbs are your core. You can have more than one word if you want. I'm just saying verb because it needs to have a verb. So if you find all the verbs you do, you can connect them together into game loops, and then you find which one is your core game loop. And then ask yourself, is that what is fun about your game? You should do this with your project management games as well. But I'm asking for your board games because that's what we are doing in this class, right? Um, take your time. Take your time. Okay? Let's take a minute to think about that. Shoot, move, explode? Question mark? Okay, interesting. Loot? Is that the only thing you do? You gotta be doing other things to get to that loot. No, you gotta be doing other things to get that loot, otherwise it doesn't mean anything. Board game, your board game. Everyone in this class has a board game to make. Not everyone in this class actually has a project management game to make, but everyone has a board game to make. What are the things that you do? You know, what are the things you want your players to be remembering that they do? What's the fun part? What's the part that players will think about? Yes, I mean your the thing that you're doing for assignment 1. Assignment 1. Your assignment 1 game. Assignment 1. Think about it. Just think about it. Okay? As a game designer, you need to understand what are the main actions of your game, what makes them fun, how they connect to each other. So you want to have them connect to each other. You want to have them not just a sequence, but you want to have them interact. Okay? And you want them to be fun verbs. Hmm. Is dying a verb? Is it something that they should do all the time? Yeah, die is a verb. Yeah. Is it something that's fun? Could be. Okay. If you guys ever look at Steam pages for a game, or just descriptions of a game in general, if you ever look at uh, let's say the store page of a game, let's say on on any game distribution platform or something like that. Okay, let me give you an example. Hang on a sec. Here, here. Let me give you the description of a game. Okay, it's pretty common to see this, and you'll see even in the description, they will often reveal to you what is their core gameplay loop. In Valheim, you battle, build, and conquer your way to a saga worthy of Odin's patronage. So you battle, build, and conquer. Those are the main verbs. And that is part of the player fantasy of being a Viking. Is the battling and the conquering and the building. That's the game. Okay? Some games, it's really, really closely tied with, the identity of the game. It's really obvious. Guys, in Minecraft, in Minecraft, what do you do? You mine and you craft. It's literally in the name. Absolutely. And you explore. But they didn't call it Minecraft Explore. Or Explore Minecraft. Or something like that. I think Minecraft is good. Minecraft is good. Okay, I love it, guys. I love it. Yeah. Think about all this. You need to make those parts of your game fun to do. In Minecraft, it is fun to mine and it is fun to craft. Those things are very fun. Minecraft and build, those are are definitely the fun things. I would say those are the main ones. Minecraft, you build, you explore. Okay, great. Let's talk about agency, player agency. So, interactivity and choice is a key feature of games compared to other media. All games have interactivity, otherwise, it's not a game. Okay? Sid Meier, famous game designer who's worked on a lot of titles which have his name included in the title often, um, like Sid Meier's Civilization 5, okay, let's say. There's a lot of them, okay, but uh, Sid Meier describes games and he views game design as a series of interesting decisions. A series of interesting decisions. That is what governs his game design. Is how can I present players with a series of interesting decisions? Oftentimes, those are decisions that your player makes, or if you have a player character, it's often your player character is making those decisions. Okay, what makes an interesting decision? What makes a non-interesting decision? Sometimes it's easier to do the negation first. What is not an interesting decision? What is not an interesting decision? What is an uninteresting decision? Bugs? That's not a decision. A bug is not a decision, dude. No, bad loot is not a decision. Come on, guys. Jamelin says, eat the apple or peel the apple. Oh, okay. So eat the apple or peel the apple and then eat apple. So this is a decision you can have. Eat or then peel and eat. That seemingly has no consequence, right? It just doesn't seem relevant. You're not getting much different from peeling that apple. It's all going the same place. Okay. In the case of the apple, eating, and peeling the apple, it doesn't feel uh you don't feel impact, yeah. So we know this is something important, right? Outcome. We want there to be some kind of different outcome, right? Um, we also want there to be some emotion involved. There needs to be some emotion involved. All right. Let me give you a different choice that is similar in format. I'm going to keep this format. Okay. All right. Here's what you could do. Uh, you. I'm trying not to think of a violent one here. Okay. Okay. Um, you can let's say you can um, sell or you can steal and then sell. This is a little different. So you're kind of expressing a little bit of morality here. That's a little different. So we want impact. We want emotion. What else do we want? Let me see. Unkillable boss. That's not a decision. Again, that's not a decision. Unimportant choices. What feels unimportant? What makes something feel unimportant? What makes something feel important? Hmm. Okay. Consequence. Okay, consequence. All right. Okay, consequence. Okay. How about let me give you guys an interesting decision. According to what we've said, let me give you an interesting decision. Okay? Okay. There's a, uh, hmm. There's a button here. Okay? A. And there's a button here. B. Uh, Pick one. Okay, is this decision interesting? No. Okay. You're invested. You're curious. There is an emotion involved. We did create something with emotion, just because you're curious. But hang on. Is it an interesting decision? Not really. Now, let's say, okay, you pressed B. Okay, you pressed B. All right. Here's what happens. Here's our consequence. There was a consequence attached to each one. You just don't know what it is. All right. Here's the consequence. You lose. Big consequence. Big deal. You lose. You blow up. A bomb goes off. Okay. You fail. Was it an interesting decision? Boo. How was I supposed to know? Exactly. What would you have won if you went for A? Maybe. But there is no hint. Yes. So there's more than just consequence that matters. This is major consequence. This is of maximum consequence. Whether you win or lose the whole game, that's the most consequence you can have in a game. Okay? So what's uninteresting? You couldn't have. There was no hint. There was no idea. There was no thought behind the decision. You may as well have picked either one at random. Okay? So you do need to have some, but not complete, but some uh, logic, predictability, some cause and effect, some understanding. Some info on cause and effect. Okay? If a character in the game tells you to press button B and you know that they cannot be trusted, then you have a better idea. Then it's more interesting. But this on its own, it's not interesting. You need to give the player some information. Please keep that in mind when you make your game designs and then you're asking your players to choose, oh, do I pick an axe or a sword? They're not going to know what matters in the game because you're going to need to give them information first. It will be a pointless decision. They won't feel like they're expressing themselves. They won't know the other side. They won't know anything. and it's just gonna not add any value. It's gonna be work that you have to do to add those two different outcomes, but no value added. So keep that in mind. You need some clarity. You can have hidden information. Definitely, surprise is great. Other things that are great, novelty. Interesting decisions include things that are novel. Not interesting decisions includes things that you do all the time that are just not that new. You don't need all of these, but you need to pick some. You need to have some. So, novelty can help for sure. Surprise can help. Yeah. Yeah, all of this is good. Okay. Keep that in mind, guys. Okay. People also like to feel that their choice matters. We do want to have consequence. But keep in mind, major world-changing events on every decision in your game cannot be taken lightly. Okay? We do want to give players the feeling that their choices matter, but we need to balance that against the fact that if we make it matter, we have to deal with that fact as the developers. We like to give players decisions, but you can give them decisions in a bunch of different ways. Strategic decisions, moral decisions, narrative decisions, just decisions to express themselves in Minecraft. You can build how you want, right? Or you can decide your clothes in a game. You can decide how you want to dress your character. Lots of different decisions that can express yourself and show that your choice, that you're making your choice, and that you have agency. You do want to make some consequence clear, if there is consequence, or at least that there may be some consequences. You don't have to tell them directly. You can let it be something that's implied, for sure. You know, let's say there's a chicken and he asks you to help him cross the street. I know it's a horrible chicken. Okay? It doesn't seem consequential. But if you have prior information that there is an ongoing extreme uh, political tension on the border of this street between uh, Chicken Republic, the Chick Republic, the Chick Republic, and uh, 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 I don't know. Uh, uh, Turkey. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good idea. I love that one. Okay, Turkey. Yeah, I like it. That's a good one. Okay, and Turkey. Okay, so there's a political issue between these nations of birds, the bird nations, national of national importance. Okay, um, then deciding whether or not to help the chicken cross the road can be, you can have a sense there might be some consequences to that. Okay, but the chicken wants to see it, the loved one. They fell in love with a turkey on the other side of the border. Gobble gobble. You know, will they be together? Who knows? Can they make peace? Who knows? You don't know the outcome. You don't know if it's going to lead to war or if it's going to lead to love, or what. But you have some idea. Turkey looks like a vulture. Sorry, please. Okay, great. Another thing you can do, guys, is acknowledge their choice after the fact. Even just acknowledging choices can help. Players want to leave a mark on the world. But they can do this by leaving an imprint on other players. They can do this by an imprint on the game world. They can do this on, you know, the game community. Some players can feel agency, can feel a sense of accomplishment, and a sense of control by stuff they do outside the game. A player might make mods. You might be a Minecraft modder. Okay, and then you have control in creatively in making stuff for that game and feeling that you have impact on the community of Minecraft modding. And that's very satisfying as well. So there are things outside of just the game. Okay, and that's something to be considered. You don't always need the biggest choices possible. You don't always need that, okay? There's some things that you can do to just allow the players to express themselves more that don't always involve big choices. Think about it this way. If you have major story decisions in your game, let's say in this story of the Czech Republic and Turkey, okay, of those two nations and the love between the chicken and the turkey on opposite sides of the border in a time of political turmoil, uh, you have, let's say, some decisions to make. Let's say your first decision, okay, you can choose between two options. Let the chicken cross the road or not let the chicken cross the road. I'm going to need to do this smaller, okay? Two options. So there's two different ways, paths your game can go down. All right, now from there, you want to give your players another decision. Okay, there's two more options. Just one, just a simple choice between two things. That's all. Okay, now you have four different ways your game can go. Okay, now you give them another option. How many do you have now? Any of you guys good at math? Any of you folks see the pattern? So one game state, then two game states, then four game states, then 8 game states. Okay, if you add one more decision, this is gonna get messy. If you add one more decision, how many are you gonna have? Oh gosh, I can't. I'm not even gonna bother. 16. Okay, add one more. How many different games do you have now? 32. Add one more. 64. 128. Uh-oh. And how many decisions did we get? When we have 128 different game outcomes, how many decisions did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 decisions, and you have over 100 endings. That's right. This would be absolute heck. Pure heck. Not fun. Not worth it, guys. What's worse is you are making all of this, and guess what your player is going to experience? They're just going to experience 8 decisions. They're only going to see one 128th of your game if they even complete your game. And actually, a lot of players don't complete the games they start. For lots of reasons, okay? No judging. Most players don't finish the games they start. So, most players will experience less than 1/128th of the game that you made. Not everyone plays the game twice, and not everyone even plays the game once. So, each player will get less than that of what you put in. It's not worth it. Not 8 out of 128. They will experience one pathway. They're going to make 8 decisions. They're going to experience one pathway. So you put in, let's say you put in 3,000 hours of work. They're only going to get 128th of that. 3,000 hours is a lot of work. That's years of your life. Okay? They're going to get less than 30 hours of your work. Okay? Think about if you changed it a little bit. If you could put 3,000 hours into a game, and then you would have people experience at least 1,500 hours of that work, that's a pretty good thing. That's a better ratio. You don't want them to experience, you know, only 30 hours of work, or less than 30 hours of work, right? Okay, so be careful here. What we have here is a exponential function. Can anyone tell me what is the form of that function? Can you describe it? If the number of decisions is it x squared? It's even worse. It's not x squared. So x squared goes like this. That's a parabola. You guys like parabolas? You like parabolic functions? Yeah? X squared is like that? No, 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 no. This is infinitely worse than x squared. This is 2 to the x. So in our case, it's n for decisions. 2 to the n, which is like this. It's way worse. Way, way, way worse. It's in the exponent. And if you change it to instead being a choice between two options, now it's three options, it's 3 to the n. If you have four choices, it's 4 to the n. Yeah, it's very bad. Exponential. We don't want that. If you learn programming, you will learn that you need to avoid anything of uh, this form. As a programmer, this should scare you immensely. Okay? This is bad. Okay? But it's not that bad. This is really, really bad. As a programmer, uh, this is really good. Um, this is uh, this is good. These are all these are good. N squared is not as good. You can have n cubed sometimes. 2 to the n, you run for the hills. You scream. They're totally different classes. Okay. Even n to the power of 16 is better than 2 to the n. I would take n to the power of 16 as a programmer. I would take n to the power of 16 over 2n any day. 2 to the n. Exponential function is way worse. Okay. There's a lot of interesting articles to read. I'll leave it to you guys if you want to click through these links on the slides. We're about to wrap up. Oh, well, look at that. It's about 1:15. Um, cool. Uh, Dustin, 2 to the 0 is just 1. It's just constant. Yeah. So as far as a programmer is concerned, it's just constant. A programmer okay, a programmer working on algorithms considers literally 1 and 1,000 and 0 in terms of time to be basically the same. Um, don't worry about that. It's a different story. Okay. Anyway, so we talked about game loops. We talked about agency. Do we have any questions regarding the lecture topics? No? Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to breakout rooms to work on our assignments. We'll see how many, if there's enough breakout rooms. If not, you can also spill out into the office hours chat rooms for this lecture hall. But what we're gonna do is, if you are in a group, join a breakout room. If you are not in a group, just uh, join the office hours chat room. So, in a group, breakout room. And not in a group, office hours chat. Voice chat room. Okay? And then I'm going to come visit you. Whether or not you're in a group, I'm going to come visit you. Okay? So wait for me to visit you. All right? We'll see. I don't know how many people we're going to have. Are you guys able to join the breakout rooms for project management? Uh, Maybe you can't see that. Maybe only I can see it. Six. Oh, okay. So it's done by the sections. Okay, hang on. I'll make another. I'll make more. Breakout room 7. Let's see if that works. Breakout room 7. Breakout room 8. Oh, you can join without being in the right project management group? Okay, that's good too. Um, okay. So if you're not in a group, join the office hours room. Is there trouble joining that one? Are you guys able to join that one? Is it, is there a problem? I don't remember there was a problem before. Break it from 9. There we go. Break it from 10. Oh, hang on. 9 is just a channel? Oh, did I make it in the wrong spot? Maybe I did that wrong. Let's see. Are you sure? Oh, it made another one? Oh, I see. Okay, I'm gonna delete that one. Okay, there we go. Alright. Cool. Alright, let's stop the recording. Whoops. Okay.